All right, the chain rule. Okay, the chain rule. Why do we need the chain rule? Well, if we want to take the square root of x squared plus 2x plus 5, or minus 5, we need to use the chain rule. If we want to take the derivative of x squared minus or plus 2x plus 2 to the third power, we need the chain rule. Okay? Now we could FOIL this all out and then do the problem. Okay? But the chain rule is quicker and a little bit easier. What is the chain rule? Well, when you take the derivative of something like this, it's a composite function, such as f of g of x. And the derivative of it is the derivative of f of g of x times the derivative of g of x. Okay? All right. And you go, what? You'll figure it out once I start doing some problems. Okay? But before we can do that, we have to figure out if these are composite functions or not. Now, is this a composite function? Now, a composite function has an inner function and an outer function. Okay? So, obviously, with this one, it's very easy to see what the inner function is. This is the inner function. Okay? So, g of x would be x squared plus 3x plus 2 in my last example. What would f of x be? Well, it would be g of x squared, right? Okay, that's what f of x would be. So, but that's not the way they put it in, or g of x to the fifth. Sorry. But that's not the way they put it here. They say it's wu of x, okay? So the inner function is u of x, okay? And the outer function, the w of u of x, okay? So the outer function would be the x to the fifth, and the inner function is this, okay? So you get inner outer here with this. That's fairly basic, okay? Now, what's the inner and outer function of this? Again, if it's in the parentheses, probably going to be the inner function. Okay? So the inner function is the u of x function. So the u of x function is that. The outer function is the log of u of x, or the log of x, shortened up. Okay? So u of x is the inner function. W of x is the outer function. What's the inner and outer function of cosine to the 9th power of x? Well, to be cosine to the 9th power of x, y would equal the cosine of x to the 9th power. Okay? See the difference with that one. Okay? Because understand, the cosine to the 9th of x is really the cosine of x to the 9th power. Now what's the inner function? Cosine of x, and outer is x to the 9th. Now, looking at this function, what's the inner function? Yeah, I'm with you. Which they have an option for that. They have the because it's not a composite function. It's one function divided by another function. What would we use as a rule to solve that? Quotient rule. That would be a quotient rule problem, not a chain rule problem. Okay? So some they'll throw at you are not composite functions. Others are composite functions. Okay? All right. So then we get to the chain rule. How do we do the chain rule? All right. So the chain rule, you set u equal to the inner function. U is equal to 2x squared minus 1. And then you take the derivative of the inner function. du equals 4x. So you have u du. And then what's your outer function? Well, that is basically w. Yeah. So we'll use the w. It's w to the 6th power is your outer function. So w equals u to the 6th power, right? Because if u is that, it's u to the 6th. So what's the first derivative of w? U to the 6 times 4x. It's 6u to the 5th, right? Using the power rule? Power rule. 6 goes in front, u to the 5th, right? Okay? So then what you have to write is what the first derivative of this is 6. Replace the u here with what u is, 2x squared minus 1 to the 5th power, times the first derivative of u, 4x. Well, if you take 4x times 6, that's 24x times 2x squared to the 5th. That is the chain rule. Okay? So basically, you take the derivative of this. So you don't have to do it this way. You can just bring the 6 out front, leave this alone, put it to the 5th power times the first derivative of the inside. Okay? That might be a little easier for some of you, but we're still going to use our u's just so when he's going through the videos, you kind of see what's going on. Okay? So in this one, what is u? X to the 4th. So what would du be? 4x to the 3rd. What is w? ln of x. What is the first derivative of w? 1 over x. So it's 1 over u, basically. Actually, we should say, not use x, you should say the ln of u, and 1 over u. So it's 1 over x to the 4th times du for x to the 3rd. Because it's this times this. So 4x to the 3rd over x to the 4th, isn't that really 4 over x? Because x to the 3rd cancels with x to the 4th. So 4 over x is choice C. The chain rule. The square root of sine of x. This one's a little more complicated. U equals sine of x. What's du? First derivative is sine of x. Cosine of x. What is w? Well, it's the square root of u, which is also known as u to the 1/2 power. So what's the first derivative of w? 1/2 u to the negative 1/2, also known as 1 over 2 square root of u, correct? So you take these two times each other. So it's 1 over 2 square root of sine of x times the cosine of x. Which one is that? Well, that is choice A. Chain rule. Cosine to the 4th of x. What did we say above? It was when it was a composite function. Cosine of x to the 4th power, right? Okay, should we take the shortcut without using the u's and the du's and all that? Put it out front. 4. Leave the inside the same. Cosine of x. Drop the power by 1 to the 3rd power. Power rule it. And then you got to take the derivative of the inside, which is negative sine of x. So you end up with negative 4 sine of x cosine to the 3rd of x, which is C. ln, this one's a little harder. ln of the square root of x. So since it's a little harder, I'm not going to take the shortcut. I don't know how to take the shortcut on this. What is u? Square root of x, what's du? Square root of x, remember, is 1/2. Ooh, not 1/2. U x to the 1/2 power. So what is du? 1/2 square root of x. You'll know that soon enough. I mean, you'll start saying, well, if that's the square root of x, that's 1/2 square root of x. Okay? Try to get that into your brains, because that'll shorten up the length of it. What is w? It's the ln of u, right? So what's the first derivative of w? 1/u. So the answer is 1/u, which is the square root of x, times du 1/2 square root of x. What's square root of x times square root of x? X. 1/2x. Okay, so chain rule. We're going to be doing more chain rule on Thursday. We're going to add to the chain rule a little bit on Thursday.